Pavlov's always at work, and not always the way we want Pavlov to be at work, right? So anyone that's dealt with, I opened a closet, and a mop fell and banged on the floor, and my dog happened to be near it. And, for about 3 months, my dog was like, that closet's got a monster in it. And, I worked on it. But, it was like inadvertent Pavlov on that one. And the thing that I think is really frustrating about Pavlov and classically conditioned responses is the negative ones, the fear-based ones, condition much faster. Because it's a survival necessity, right? If something's going to hurt you or kill you, it makes sense that it would stick really fast, really strong. Like, how many of you had to touch a hot stove more than once to learn? Right? But, for anyone that's inclined to exercise, how many times do you have to go to the gym and feel good to be like, yes, this is the thing I know I need to do, even though I want to stay in bed and eat a croissant. Yeah. Right? So the good stuff's always harder.
We'll let you know when that happens.
It's a rumor I hear. So the last thing that I want to, so what we're going to do is, in general, we want to pair the presentation of the fear trigger with a unique treat a dog doesn't get any other time. You guys did a lot of this with one of your foster dogs.
With Buster.
Yeah, with Buster. So it was Buster and cars, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a car, that causes liverwurst. There's a car, that causes liverwurst. Buster, you can do whatever you want. You can spin circles, you can be, watching the car causes liverwurst. So what happens over time, and I'm not going to lie, in general it's 2,000 repetitions. This isn't like training that happens on a weekend. I've had my dog for 6 years. This takes time. But what happens is when you have successfully created a conditioned emotional response, the dog sees the fear trigger and goes, oh, where's my food? Do you see it? It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. I want my food. So my fearful dog was reactive to other dogs. And I actually use him in my reactivity cases because he sees other dogs and he's like, woohoo, pony stunting. And, before I started this training, he was like, but it was slow, it was steady, it was methodical, and you all don't necessarily have that luxury, right? How many dogs are here for 2,000 repetitions? So, one of the things that I want you to think about is very quick, very easy, and this is what we're going to be doing upstairs, safe zone training. So this was originally developed by Ian Dunbar, who is a vet. He's a dog trainer. He was the first person ever to run puppy socialization classes in this country in the 70s. He founded the Association of Professional Dog Trainers. He's got some wonderful books you can download for free before you get your puppy, after you get your puppy. They're slightly dated, but they're wonderful. They're on my website. You can download them from there for free. He called it treat retreat. So what he would do is if he was, let's say you're a scared dog, and I threw you a treat really far away, you didn't have to get any closer to me, and you leaned down and you ate it, when you looked up at me, he took a step back. So it was his way of saying, I give you good stuff, and I'm not even trying to mess with you. I'm not even going to try to come into your space. I'm not trying to in any way mess with you. Suzanne Clothier picked up this. She's an interesting trainer. And she calls it safe zone training. And I like her version a lot because I don't have to think as much. Seriously, you don't have to think as much. So, although she'd be offended if she heard me say that, without a doubt. No one sent this video to Suzanne Clothier. She will not be happy I just said that. I'm sure her version is filled with nuance. And then I have, grossly undermined its precision. But I send dogs away from what scares them. So if I see a dog that's kind of fearful and curious and kind of gets a little closer, the move I make is, hey, get further away. Turn around. Go get the treat over there. And that means they'll turn around and go, really? I'll say, yeah, really, there's the treat. Really? And so I do this with agility equipment all the time, dogs that I'm trying to get on agility equipment. What we tend to do is do the Hansel and Gretel, right? If you get closer, I'll give you a treat. Oh, you got closer? Well, now you have to get closer and I'll give you a treat. Oh, you got closer? Now you have to get closer. We actually lie to dogs because we keep pulling it away. That does not engender trust, right? So if you're going to Hansel and Gretel, make sure you treat every step of the way. You took a step, here's a treat. You took a step, here's a treat. Don't lie to dogs. They remember it. They remember. And don't even try lying to a cat. Don't even try that, because they're like, no. So, with agility equipment, what I do is, let's say Heather's my tunnel. Go ahead. Dog, little worried. I will throw a little treat a little bit closer to the opening of the tunnel, and if the dog gets a little closer, if the dog says, no, I don't want to get closer, I'll throw the treat further away. The dog determines where it starts, always. Always. I always ask permission with the first treat, where do you want to play? Where are you comfy? And I always 20 treats to find out where a dog says, no, right here is where I can start. Okay, great, thanks. So if you can start here, guess what? Go further away. Get a little closer, go further away. Get a little closer, further away. And I go back and forth. So what I'm actually playing with is, you're coming to the edge of your safe zone. That's really brave. I'm going to reward you by putting you back in it. You're going to get to the edge of it? Great. Go back in it. One of the things that I think this is essential in teaching, and this is Suzanne Clothier's point, I think it's a really good one. Many dogs, many beings that are terrified have forgotten how to flee. So, you've been working with your dog, they've sort of started thinking that people are okay, and they kind of get close, and they smell Sandy's, essential oils, like, oh, lavender, blah. They're feeling pretty good, and then they're like, oh, no. Now what do I do? I don't want to get any closer, but I don't know how to leave. That's like, I don't know what to do. Let's go away. Let's go away. I think what's beautiful about safe zone training is it teaches an emergency exit. And I've spent tons of time with my own fearful dog bolstering his sense of flight. Oh, keep going, right? So when he gets scared, go. There's a million places for you to flee. You do not have to take that on. So I actually have a bunch of people now that are doing some work at my house. So my dog's had a lot of practice at this, and I'm there with treats. And when he's like, "There's someone here," I'm like, "Yeah, go further away." Okay, So I spend a lot of time teaching. I think teaching dogs a graceful exit essential. And what's really critical is when the dog or cat first makes contact. So let's say you've been doing this training, you've done 50 treats, you're losing all faith, and then the little boo comes up and goes, hey. That's usually when we're like, hi! They're like, ah! What is really essential at that point is to say, thank you so much, go further away. Keep going away. Keep going away. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So and you did that little cat, the little cat that you were flicking.
I did. My flicking was not so good. Okay, so here's the thing. I had not practiced in my cat training career how to properly flick a hard treat. And it was like ricocheting off the cage. You would have loved it, Tristan. You would have cracked up if you had seen it. But if I moved my hand to try to lob it, it scared the cat. So I had to have a really small motion to deliver food, and the food had to be delivered at a distance, so it was the flick. But yeah, that little kitty was like, really, you have food? And I was like, yeah, you can go over there and get it. And so, really? And it's I love it. It's a seesaw. You can totally see it happen. So we're going to go upstairs, and we're going to play around with this. And what we're going to do is we'll do some demoing, and then if you all want to give it a try, you can use a clicker for this. What I find is often if dogs are really scared or cats really scared, you click, they're like, the world's ending, so I don't even bring a clicker into it. There's quiet clickers, and you can absolutely use those. Once I get a dog or cat rocking and rolling, clicking then comes into play if I want it to. But any questions before we go up there? And do we know what we're doing? Do we know where we're going?
Yes, we know where we're going. Do we need more clickers?
So Deven, I do a,
How dare you?
so
because you know I have to use it. So what do you think about that? Because I have trouble, like literally like coordinating because I
think it's fine.
Okay, I mean it seems to work.
I think it's fine. The thing with safe zone training is I'm never really sure what to click. Because, you know, it's like, if a dog or cat's really scared, they're not accessing the frontal cortex, which is where decisions are weighed and consequences are processed. But there's the neurological benefit of the click if you've charged it. So I think part of my decision about whether or not I'd use a clicker if I was doing some safe zone training was whether or not the animal was already aware of that sound. Like how to, and see, I'm thinking these are animals you can't even charge a clicker with yet because they won't work with you enough to do it. So my kind of first move is, let's play this game with food and see if I can get you rocking and rolling. And if I can get you rocking and rolling at some point, I'll introduce the clicker. Thought?
Yeah, I have one question. So you said that we should encourage disengagement. So would the command potentially leave it and then moving away from that object?
No.
Is that?
There's no
encouraging
command for
disengagement?
this. There's no command for this. Leave it is actually what I use as an emergency. Don't touch that at all.
Okay.
Don't touch that at all. And I don't care what cue you use for that behavior, but what I'm trying to teach here is, it's sort of like, let's go back to the beginning example of a stranger walks up to you and hands you $1,000. If that stranger had, let's say, stood this far away from you and dropped $1,000 there and kind of looked at you, kind of like, and let's say you went for it. The next move the stranger made would be very telling to you, right? Because if the stranger then walked up to you, you'd be like, man, trapped. I fell for it, you know? If, on the other hand, the stranger moved backwards or wadded up a bill and threw it behind you, you'd be like, what game are you playing? And just started sort of throwing money back and forth, asking nothing of you. Asking nothing of you, other than, do you want to play this game with me? And then at the end, what if the stranger, after you got $5,000, $10,000, just walked away? Huh. People are kind of interesting, right? And so that's what I'm trying to engender. I'm kind of trying to engender, I think, curiosity, and it's not just, thank you. Nice word. And not just intellectual curiosity, but spiritual and emotional curiosity. I'm trying to kind of, you know, hey, because I find that fearful creatures, by nature of their hypervigilance, are incredibly perceptive about agenda. They can read it from a mile away. I mean, I actually try to keep it out of my head. And that's what I like about safe zone training, because my agenda is go further away. What? You know, and really you can see them like, huh? But you've got food, and usually people are trying to get me closer. No, I'm actually trying to get you further away. And then before you know it, and I see this in agility, we really should video this in agility, because it's really, I mean, dogs that are terrified of agility, of a piece of agility equipment, it might take 2 or 3 sessions, but by the time that they actually take that step to go through it, if they'll take 2 steps in the tunnel, most people would be calling them at the other end of the tunnel, go all the way through. I don't. I stop them and tell them to go backwards. Learn how to get out of there. Learn how to move backwards. When I'm working on the A-frame, which is terrifying from some dogs, I spend the first 3 sessions teaching them to make loops on it. So if you ever get up and get scared, you don't have to commit. You can always go backwards. Oh, okay. So then if they get up there and they get a little scared, they're like, wait, I've been here. I know how to do this. I can get off of this. Yeah, you can, right? Because I don't want them leaping 10 feet off of it. I want them. So I think giving exit skills, man, it's powerful. It's really powerful. And like I said, this is really Ian Dunbar and Suzanne Clothier's thing. And I spent a weekend with Suzanne Clothier. She had a seminar on this, and then I had a private lesson with my own dog with her. And the proof was in the pudding. I saw tons of fearful dogs that week. I work with fearful creatures. I live with fearful creatures. And it's changed everything. It's changed everything, because that shift in agenda, they really get it. So where are we going?
Well, one question. From
Yes.
a practical point of view,
Yeah.
how do you get exercise a safe zone on a dog with a dog on a leash?
I would do it before, well, first I have to have a relationship with the dog on the leash.
Okay.
So I would work on building that, and sometimes I even use a long line as
But
opposed to
the
a
dog's
leash.
here. If you're walking the dog here, I mean, you may not
That
have a
was
relationship.
scared of you?
No, you may be scared of another dog as you're approaching.
Oh,
You
yeah,
just
so
turn around
that's
and go
where
away.
you take big steps backwards. You do
Okay.
U-turns. You hide behind cars or shrubs. You say, I'm gonna be a partner with you in this, and I'm gonna get you out. I'm gonna give you more space.
Okay.
So, and sometimes that means being creative. You know, seeing someone coming and choosing to go in a room and wait for that dog to pass, or go upstairs and wait for the dog to pass, or say, hey, can you wait a second? Let me get my dog out of here.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that, again, because I have people working at my house, I ruthlessly manage my fearful dog. And he's come really far. He's the demo dog in classes. If you met him, you would say, he doesn't seem that fearful. But that doesn't mean it can't be triggered. But when I say, I mean, I ruthlessly say, hey, Pager, I need you to go back in your car for a minute because my dog's in the car and I need to get my dog in here. And I don't want him coming into where he's scared. Now, once I get him inside, I can then start working with him in the painter.
Right.
And it actually only took about, I don't know, 5 sessions for him to think the painter was awesome. You know, and I just said to the painter, just paint.
Yeah.
Don't look at him. Don't make eye, just paint. And I did safe zone. Get closer to the painter, get further away. Closer, further away. And then he was scratching his butt and saying, hi, painter, guy, this is really great. And then there are some people that aren't going to be in my house long enough for that.
Scratch your butt?
The painter was scratching my dog. But you know, there are people that are only going to be there for a day. I'm not going to bother. It's like, you know, if I have time to train, I'll form a positive association, but I will at the very least say, until I get my dog comfortable and away from you, you're in his path, I need you to move. I'm going to get him where he needs to be, because I don't ever want my dog to bite someone. Now, he's never bitten anyone. He's never even aggressed towards someone. He's never actually even really growled at anyone. It's just that because I work with fearful dogs, I know he is the type that under the right circumstances, and really any dog under the right circumstance will bite, truly. There's no dog that wouldn't. But some dogs are more sensitive to it, and I'm just not going to put him in that situation. Just not going to do it, right? So it does require ruthless management, and I think teamwork needs to come into play here. You know, it can be something as simple, and I don't know if this is practical, but it can be something as simple as, you know, bright red bandanas. This dog's terrified. This dog needs space. That's what they do at nosework trials. So if you're nosework trialing with a fearful or reactive dog, you have your own parking lot, and all reactive dogs have on red bandanas, and that tells the entire community that dog needs space. Let's help accommodate it. So I think a visual and something as simple as a bandana can go a huge way towards making, so then you, dog walker, don't have so much responsibility of trying to manage everything around you. The rest of the community can easily identify, oh, you need a little help, you're going to need more space, right? So these are things we need to think about.
And you can do something similar with cats in your home who are scared of people coming in.
Oh.
Same.
I mean, safe zone training is safe zone training.
Okay, so we do have some strictly cat volunteers. Do you think it would be good to give them direction and set them up with the cats, or for them to experience the dog?
Let's do a little demo with the dog, and then cat people head to cats. I don't have really good cat treats. Do you guys have really good cat? Does someone here have really good cat treats?
There are a lot of temptations and whiskers in the cat kitchen.
Excellent.
I put them in this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You had a question.
I do. Before we go up, are you going to show what to do with a fearful dog as you're getting them out of the kennel? Or is this going to be, once you
Well, we
got them
worked
on
with that a couple of weeks ago, but it's okay. It depends on how far we get and which fearful dog we have. One of the things that I want to, is it a dog that's too scared to come out? Yeah. So the safe zone training is actually great for this. I would have a leash, and you can even attach, if you want, the leash to the kennel so that your hands are free, and can you get a little closer to the threshold, get further away? Can you get a little closer, can you get on it, go further? Is one of the reasons why the dog doesn't want to come out is he's afraid that if I take that step, if I commit, the door closes behind me, I'm in this world, I'm terrified. And so one of the things that I work really hard on is saying, if you can take that step, you get to go back to where you feel safe.
You're assuming that we got the leash on them?
And if you can't get the leash on them, then there's work that has to be done first. And that's to get closer to me. In fact, I was working with Bella last week, who could be very weird about hands around her. And so one of the things I was working on with her, I did some safe zone training first. And then I stood there with my hands down at my side and said, can you just touch my hand? So she sort of was trying to figure out what was going on. And I did not put my hand out to her. My hands were down at my side. And when she randomly came over to sniff, because I had treats, click, threw the treat further away. Touch me, click, further away. And so within 10 minutes, she was punching our hands. I had her come in, she was like, boom. I was like, whoo, whoo. Then I picked up a leash. And she was like, no. And I was like, okay, I'll just stand here, same rule applies. She started messing with my non-leash hand. Thanks, click, treat, click, treat. I'll sniff over there. I threw 10 treats. I'll sniff over, I'll throw 10 treats. And then we sort of passed the leash back, but what I didn't do was this, right? Because again, what that dog is clearly telling you is that this is Pavlov. That leash is a predictor of my losing my vote. When that leash goes on me, I lose my vote. I don't get to say I'm scared, don't move me, right? And so because you have to walk dogs, you end up saying, well, sorry, you lose your vote. Click, drag, right? Because that's the nature. I mean, again, it's a luxury. But this is why it's really helpful if everyone did 2 or 3 minutes of safe zone training. I mean, I was here last Friday because I messed up and thought we had training and we didn't. Hello. But we had 2 pounds of ham. I was like, we're using it. So, yeah, the cows. If just even for a couple of minutes you stood there and the dog sort of showed interest and you threw it backwards, showed interest, and then moved to the next dog. It's, if everyone sort of started doing some safe zone work, you're going to get, and we saw this with the cats. When we were just trying to charge the clicker of cats, because my plan was to shape cats to get closer to people, cats that were scared. The second they found out that we would throw treats, they were like, hey, woohoo. I was like, oh, I don't even have to shape this. No. All you had to do is show up with a tongue depressor with wet cat food. Okay. But, there were some cats who said, I'm not going to get close enough to eat that. And those were the cats that I said, okay, I'll wing it. I'll make it as easy as possible. So this is what takes time. This is what takes time. And so this is where we have to find, for you all, a good compromise of training and practicality. Because again, you don't have the luxury of doing, at some point you're going to put the leash on and say, sorry, you don't have a vote. But that's got to happen in a bigger context. Because if it doesn't happen in a bigger context, then nothing changes. So there are times with my fearful dog that I have to say, you don't get a vote. But he's had 6 years of getting a vote. So he knows, okay, this is just one little blip in the radar. But I trust you and you'll get me safe. And I don't get why I don't have a vote right now, but we'll get it. We don't have that luxury of history here. We need to build it. And that's everyone for 2 seconds. Couple of treats, move on. Couple of treats, move on. I was doing that and trying to get, what dog to be quiet?
That big hound.
Briar.
Oh, Briar.
Yeah,
He was so good by the time I left. He wasn't making a beep. He was so good. He was just probably because his tongue was so strong. First from the ham. Okay, so where are we? Oh, yeah.
I need to see this in action, I think.
Okay, well, that's what we're going to do.
We're going.
We're going.